Today's question: how can or when can we use research in the inquiry process?
Hello, I'm Aliya Caldwell from ETHOS Innovation Center, and I'm one of the STEM educators here.
It's John Taylor, Senior Director of STEM Education here at ETHOS also. Great to be with everybody today. We had a question come from a teacher, which is an interesting question. I think you can interpret a lot of different ways. And the question was, how can or when can we use research in the inquiry process? That's awesome. So if we think about the other side of this question about if you think of research as the activity of doing the science, and I can see this because when we do our training, we talk about spending time on observations and questioning, and then taking time to get into prediction, hypothesizing, and then writing a procedure and then doing it. And I know some schools of thoughts are, let's do it first and then let the kids process it out. So it's like, wait a minute, which is better? Are they two different things? I think they're the same thing, aren't they? If you think about it here.
I'm not sure if they're the same thing. I kind of think it depends on your investigation and your personal style as a teacher and your class. We all know there are classes that are easier to do things with
Yes.
and classes that are more challenging. I think it really has to be case by case in this instance, because some investigations, I really want my students to have that background knowledge before they investigate. And so I have to kind of front load them before we begin. And then I think there are other investigations. It's okay to jump in and say, hey, what happened? And then kind of backpedal and go through, well, what did you observe? What questions do you have?
Yes.
And the steps that way. And lower elementary, I think I did a mix of both, just really depending on what we were doing. And some it was in the middle. Like when we taught the butterfly kit, we had to wait forever for those caterpillars to turn into a chrysalis. And so we did a lot of our research in the middle while we were waiting.
Yes, I think the big thing here is structure. Having a science approach where you're taking your kids and there isn't a structure for the next few weeks on how you're processing this, working this into your language arts, working in your math, without having even a structure for the investigation, you're looking at a science experience that will draw out for months without much coming back to you for product. I do believe that you can get a lot done in science pretty quick and be very powerfully impactful on your students, that what they get out of is huge if you have a good structure. So I know for us, having that front load before we get the students, let them go, it does kind of stack the cards for us. And I think even if you start with an investigation of some sort to kick them off, realize what's happening is you're just basically looping through the process anyways. You're just starting in the middle and working your way around. I think one thing that does happen as the kids get older in older grades, it's an easy tendency to skip the observation and questioning stage, to want to jump right into, give them procedures and let them do it. And boy, I'm sorry, but you miss out on so much.
You do.
You know, see, those kids need those observation and questioning opportunities.
Yep. And I think sometimes starting with an investigation can provide that if you set it up in that manner. When we unpacked the butterfly kit, I loved to bring out random things that made no sense, like sugar cubes. What does a sugar cube have to do with a caterpillar or a butterfly? And really get that observation and questioning piece started. We weren't necessarily doing an investigation, but we were kind of starting to do some research and some pre-learning about things in our kit, things we might be doing. And then I used that wonder wall. And that was usually something that got parked on the wonder wall of, what does a sugar cube have to do with a butterfly? And I knew, but I would just leave it there for them. So when we got to that point, it was kind of completing that cycle where they're like, oh, my observation of the sugar cube is now being answered and its purpose is being explored.
Yeah. And I can see the purpose of a hook, of having something, especially I just love to do demonstrations with students where things, you think it's going to go one way, then, whoa, what a surprise. I was showing a student saying in Bernoulli about how you blow over a piece of paper and the high velocity actually creates low pressure and it goes up and like, That's not what she expected. What do you mean? It should have gone down, But having that does start the conversation. That's not really an experiment. That's like a demonstration to key that off. But it is nice to have those hooks at times. And I do think some short investigations, realizing we're going to backpedal. That as soon as they've done this observation, they're going to do observation. I mean, after they do the little simple task, little simple experiment, then we backpedal into what did you observe? What do you wonder? What are you questioning? And what can we predict as we move forward? So we're going into the investigation. We come back to the experiment now with this structure, this educational approach, so that we can really be efficient and effective with our time.
I think sometimes too, you can start with an investigation and then kind of skip to that what now phase and start the process all over again. So we did this little simple experiment together. What are you wondering now? What further things do you want to explore? And then kind of go back up through the steps and cycle that way as well.
Oh, definitely. And all this, I do like the hands-on with everything, observing, questioning, where we're going through these processes, that the kids are engaged in the material the whole time, that they've been playing with it, they've been checking it out. And even at the tail end, I always like to leave an experiment as open-ended, like what would we do next? That we come back around so we have an excuse to do more investigation. And we may not do it, but at least the kids are thinking about it. What if I did this? If I do that? So as long as
And that's where, some of that extra research could come in that piece too. So I've learned some basic steps. If I research further, what else might I learn that would affect that investigation? So if I'm really trying to figure out this, is there more information I can gather to get my background knowledge so I can accomplish it?
Yeah, it's a good thing. We often think of a scientific process as being a line, but it's not. It really is a jumping back and forth and looping around on our processes, right? We kind of keep changing what's our hypothesis? No, wait a minute, let's improve on that. Our method, let's improve on that. And it really is a process the whole way through. Got to remember that, I guess, too.
Yep, it's not going to be just cut and dry. It really needs to flow. And I think sometimes it's group by group, student by student.
Yeah.
You may start an investigation and students kind of start going off in different ways, or groups start going off in different ways, and how they cycle may be different, and that's totally okay.
Yeah, it is. So good question today and great discussions go through this. Hope this was helpful. Remember, if you have questions at the bottom, look at the email link, hit that, send us some more questions for us to talk about as we do the inquiry zone. And thanks very much for being with us today.
See you next time. Thank you to the dedicated and outstanding teachers at Benton Elementary School for their work in the inquiry zone to better serve their students. And we are excited to work with our amazing partners at Millersburg Elementary School. Your student dedication is awesome. Thank you.
ETHOS offers the Inquiry Zone professional development to schools. Helping to ensure a robust, fun, and cross-curricular approach to science is supported in all grades. Please contact us at contact@ethosinc.org.